show you today is these 5 ways to well-being that you can use just through your life, like all the time, but that you can particularly think about if you are feeling down, and they will help you feel better. Because well-being and happiness are quite similar. The 5 ways to well-being came out of an initiative of the New Economics Foundation, whose motto is economics as if people and the planet mattered. So they did some research around what it is that maximises and enhances the well-being of communities and individuals. And they discovered that, I guess there are 5 platforms that we can build well-being on, and they are relationships, physical activity, keeping on learning, awareness, and also giving. So out of that research, they developed the 5 ways to well-being, and they are a set of actions and behaviours that, when practised, can enhance individuals' well-being and also the well-being of communities. So the inner circle people who just put their hands up, you are going to ask your partner a question. The question you're going to ask all day and every day, the 5 ways would be happening in the classroom, and I think if teachers are mindful of that, they can point out when a student is, for example, connecting really well, or they notice someone doing something kind for somebody else in the classroom, which fits into the 5th way, which is giving. So it's a really easy and neat way to work with ideas around well-being. Yeah, so is that something you knew about each other before now? Okay, so can you see that there's a bit of an extra connection there between you now? You know, the first of the 5 ways is connect. Pretty clear. Connect with your family, your friends, neighbours, the people around you, your community. But I think it's also important to be mindful of why you're doing that. Why are you connecting? It's because they are the building blocks of your good well-being. They're the things that get you out of bed every day and keep you going, the connections that you make with other people. And of course, connecting goes on all the time in the classroom. And if you're thinking about introducing the 5 ways to well-being into your room, think about all those connecting games that you play with kids, say at the beginning of the year, to get them to know each other a bit better and to know you a bit better. Those things don't have to be left behind after the first few weeks of term. You could be continuing those connecting kinds of activities and games over the whole year, really. And I think also you could be mindful and notice when kids are doing good connecting. So it's really about integrating the language, I suppose, of the 5 ways into the classroom.
I'm connected to my teacher because he's funny and he helps me learn.
Well, I'm connected to a really good friend because I just feel really comfortable around her and really safe, and we have a lot in common.
I think I'm connected with Caden because we're both not that good at footy, but we both still have a go.
So the second way is be active. Again, pretty common sense, pretty obvious. We know heaps about how important it is to be active for our physical well-being, but we're discovering more and more about the importance of physical activity for our emotional well-being as well. In relation to adults, we know that some physical activity has a really positive effect on somebody who's depressed. There's not as much evidence around that for children and young people, but you know yourself, if you're someone that does a bit of exercise, it's a mood lifter. Who's got a bike that they ride? Yeah? How many of you actually ride to school? Because you've got that fantastic bike path, haven't you? When you look at the 5 ways to wellbeing, you go, oh really? That's pretty common sense. But not everybody gets these messages. And sometimes kids who are struggling, the reason for the struggles might be at least partly because nobody has ever articulated this stuff. And one of the things that I've always tried to do as a mental health promotion worker is exactly that, articulate things to children and young people. Actually tell them that connection is a really good way of going about your life, that giving actually changes things for you, that taking notice is a really important thing to do and will also affect your well-being. And if we tell all of the kids this stuff, but especially the kids who are struggling, I think it can have an effect and it can make a difference. Apples, oranges, bananas, chocolate, cheese. Take notice, the 3rd of the 5 ways to well-being. I think this is one of the most important ones, and possibly one of the ones that children and young people can have a bit more trouble getting hold of. But it's really about noticing your surroundings, noticing the beauty around us, noticing other people, noticing what you're feeling. Being conscious, I think, is the thing, not going through life in a kind of a half shut down mode. And this is important because it affects our internal state. And I think the other two words to use in relation to take notice are savouring and gratitude. So if we savour the positive moments in our lives, they kind of have a longer life, if you like. And if we are grateful for the positive things and the good things that happen in our lives, that also enhances our well-being.
Kind of capture like kind of the hectic surroundings of the market.
I wonder if this koala has any babies in its pouch.
Ah, yeah. So this is not to say that negative or difficult things don't happen in people's lives. Of course they do. But what we know is that if we can find something to be thankful for or something to savour, even in those really difficult times, it actually helps us get through them. Okay, so keep learning. Yes, you do need to do all that to get your good grades. But remember, we're talking about the 5 ways to well-being. So what's the connection between keeping on learning and well-being?
Well, keep learning doesn't just have to be like at school. You can keep learning about like new things about your friends and family and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. So that's going back to the connection. Keep learning, the 4th of the 5 ways. Fortunately, when I raise this, the children and young people are generally able to agree that they do learn stuff at school, but it's also about accepting a challenge. It's about thinking about, I've always wanted to learn to ride a bike, or I've always wanted to learn to cook Thai food, or whatever it might be. So it's about continuing to learn throughout our lives.
Well, I think that learning isn't just about learning like at school, like educational, like it's learning from your friends and learning about your friends.
The thing that we found out about giving is, yes, it makes the people who have been given to feel better, but we've actually discovered that the givers, so the volunteers, the people that are doing the giving, get as much, if not more, out of doing that than the people who are given to. The 5th way to well-being is called giving. And I think that this one is really important in terms of enabling children and young people to understand that how they behave does affect the well-being of those around them and of the community that they live in. So when you say thank you, or when you smile at someone, or when you volunteer to do something for somebody else, you're enhancing your own well-being, but you are also putting that stuff out. So it kind of comes a full circle, because when you're giving into your community, you're practicing that connection idea into your community and enhancing, as I said, enhancing your own well-being as well as the well-being of those around you.
Someone might give a little to feel better or something. Give to feel better. So give time.
That's what my mum does.
When I talk about giving in the classroom and raise this one with the kids, we often start with what do we give and what do we receive, and we'll get the presents and the stuff and Christmas and birthdays. So you have to dig a little bit deeper to get them to start to think about hugs and love, and even a little bit further to get them to think about volunteering, particularly primary school kids who are not necessarily engaged in any kind of volunteering. So I might ask about parents. Have you got parents in the SES, or do you have a parent who volunteers for the canteen, or does mum or dad come in to hear reading at the school? And so we can talk about that idea of volunteering and giving back to the community. I would really encourage anybody who wants to introduce the 5 ways into their classroom to use their own imagination and their own toolkit for introducing these ideas to the children and young people. It's going to be more authentic, and I think also it enables you to be more explicit about what you're doing if you're doing it from your own self and your own understanding of your kids and what you and your kids do well together.